What is happening here?
There's nothing left to say right now about that.
For years, Sister Wives has been filled with emotional moments, family tension, and dramatic turning points. But recently, a new wave of controversy has sparked intense discussion among fans, this time centered around Robyn Brown. Viewers who have followed the Brown family for years know that disagreements and misunderstandings are nothing new. However, what's being discussed now feels different. It's not just about relationship struggles or family dynamics. It's about a moment that many fans believe crossed a line. Online discussions have been flooded with reactions, theories, and debates. Some fans claim that Robyn's actions toward a younger family member came across as overly harsh or unfair. Others argue that the situation may have been misunderstood or taken out of context. But one thing is clear: people are paying attention. And when a moment resonates this strongly with an audience, it usually points to something deeper. To understand why the situation has become such a hot topic, we need to take a step back and look at the broader family dynamic. The Brown family has always been complex, with multiple relationships, different parenting styles, and a structure that naturally creates challenges. At the center of it all is Kody Brown, whose role as the head of the family has often placed him in difficult positions. Balancing the needs of multiple wives and children is never simple, and over time, viewers have seen how those pressures can lead to tension. Each wife brings her own personality, perspective, and approach to parenting, and among them, Robyn has often been seen as one of the more protective and emotionally expressive figures. From the moment she joined the family, her presence changed the dynamic. Her relationship with Kody grew quickly, and over time, many viewers noticed a shift in how attention and priorities were distributed. That shift has been a point of discussion for years. But now, the focus has moved to something more specific, a moment or series of moments that fans believe reveal a different side of Robyn's behavior. According to viewers, this situation involves a teenage member of the extended Brown family. While the exact details remain unclear and have not been officially confirmed, the reactions online suggest that many people felt uncomfortable with how the interaction was handled. Some describe it as overly critical, others say it felt unnecessary, and a few have gone as far as calling it unfair or inappropriate. But it's important to recognize that much of this conversation is based on interpretation. Reality television doesn't always show the full picture. Scenes are edited, timelines are condensed, and context can sometimes be lost in the process. What viewers see is only a portion of what actually happens. Still, perception matters. Because even if a moment is taken out of context, the way it's presented can shape how audiences respond. And in this case, the response has been strong. For many fans, this situation isn't just about one interaction. It's about a pattern they believe they've been noticing over time. A pattern of behavior that raises questions about fairness, communication, and the way certain relationships are handled within the family. At the same time, there are viewers who see things differently. They argue that parenting in a large, blended family is incredibly challenging, that tensions are inevitable, and that it's not always fair to judge someone based on a limited view of a complex situation. These differing perspectives highlight something important about reality TV. It doesn't just show a story, it invites interpretation, and those interpretations can vary widely depending on the viewer. But regardless of where people stand, the conversation itself is significant, because it reflects how invested audiences have become in the lives of the Brown family. After years of watching their journey, fans feel connected. They feel like they understand the dynamics, and when something doesn't sit right, they speak up. For Robyn, being at the center of this kind of attention isn't new. She has faced criticism before, particularly regarding her relationship with Kody and the perception that she receives more of his time and attention than the other wives. But this situation feels more personal, because it involves not just adult relationships, but the treatment of a younger family member, and that raises the stakes. As the conversation continues to grow, one question keeps coming up. What really happened? Was this a misunderstanding amplified by editing and online speculation? Or was it a moment that genuinely reflects a deeper issue within the family? In the next part, we'll take a closer look at the specific incident that sparked this reaction, what viewers believe they saw, how it was interpreted, and why it has led to such strong opinions. Because sometimes a single moment can reveal much more than it seems at first glance. After the initial wave of discussion surrounding sister wives, fans began focusing on a specific moment, one that many believe triggered the intense reaction online involving Robyn Brown. While no official statement has confirmed the full details, viewers point to a scene that appeared to show a tense interaction between Robyn and a teenage member of the extended Brown family. At first glance, it may have seemed like a normal family disagreement, something that happens in almost every household, a difference of opinion, a moment of frustration. But as fans replayed the scene, analyzed the tone, and discussed it across social media, a different interpretation began to take shape. Some viewers felt that Robyn's response came across as overly intense, not just firm, but emotional in a way that felt disproportionate to the situation. They pointed to her tone, her body language, and the way the conversation unfolded as reasons why the moment stood out. Others focused on the reaction of the teen involved. They noticed hesitation, discomfort, a sense that the interaction may have felt overwhelming. And for many fans, that reaction was what made the moment feel uncomfortable to watch. Because when a younger family member appears uneasy, it changes how the situation is perceived.
It's no longer just about a disagreement. It becomes about how that disagreement is handled, and that distinction is important. Parenting, or in this case step-parenting or family authority, often involves setting boundaries, correcting behavior, addressing conflict. But the way those actions are carried out can make all the difference. For some viewers, the issue wasn't did Robyn address the situation, it was how she did it. The intensity, the delivery, the emotional weight of the moment. These elements combined to create a scene that felt, to some, more confrontational than necessary. However, not everyone saw it that way. There are fans who believe the reaction has been exaggerated. They argue that reality TV often amplifies drama, that editing choices can make moments seem more intense than they actually were, and that without full context, it's impossible to judge fairly. This divide in opinion has only added fuel to the conversation, because it highlights how differently people can interpret the same scene. What one person sees as harsh, another may see as justified. What one person views as uncomfortable, another may see as a normal family dynamic. But beyond the specifics of the moment, there's a larger question at play. Why did this scene resonate so strongly? Why did it stand out among so many other emotional interactions the show has featured over the years? Part of the answer may lie in the history of the family. Over time, viewers have developed certain expectations about how each member behaves. They formed opinions about personalities, roles, and relationships. And when something doesn't align with those expectations, it captures attention. In Robyn's case, she has often been seen as emotional and protective, particularly when it comes to her own children. But this situation involved someone outside that immediate circle, and that difference may have influenced how the interaction was perceived. Some fans questioned whether the same tone would have been used in a different context. Others wondered if underlying tensions within the family played a role in how the moment unfolded. Because in a family as complex as the Browns, interactions rarely exist in isolation. They are influenced by past experiences, by existing relationships, by emotions that may not always be visible on the surface. At the same time, it's important to consider the limitations of what viewers actually see. Reality television presents a version of events, but not the full story. Conversations may be edited, moments may be shortened, context may be missing, and those factors can significantly affect how a scene is interpreted. Still, perception often becomes reality for audiences, and once a moment sparks a strong reaction, it takes on a life of its own. Clips are shared, opinions are formed, discussions grow, and before long, a single interaction becomes a major talking point. That's exactly what has happened here. What may have been a brief moment in the broader context of the show has now become a focal point of discussion among fans. And with that attention comes scrutiny, not just of the moment itself, but of the patterns and dynamics that may surround it. As we move into the next part, we'll explore those patterns more closely, looking at Robyn's role within the family, how she has been perceived over time, and whether this moment reflects something larger. Because sometimes it's not just about what happened, it's about what people believe it represents.
As the conversation around Robyn Brown continued to gain traction, many viewers began asking a deeper question. Was this an isolated moment or part of a larger pattern? Fans of Sister Wives have spent years watching the evolution of the Brown family. Over time, they formed strong opinions about each member, especially when it comes to behavior, communication, and relationships within the household. For Robyn, her role has always been unique. From the moment she entered the family, her presence shifted the existing dynamic. Her relationship with Kody Brown quickly became one of the most talked about aspects of the show. Many viewers noticed how their connection seemed stronger, more emotionally expressive, and at times more prioritized. That perception has followed Robyn for years. And because of it, every interaction she has, especially those involving other family members, is often viewed through a more critical lens. So when this recent moment involving a teenager surfaced, it didn't exist in a vacuum. It was immediately compared to past behavior. Some fans pointed to earlier scenes where they felt Robyn had displayed a similar tone, emotional, intense, and sometimes overly involved in situations that didn't directly concern her. They argued that this wasn't the first time her approach had raised eyebrows, that there have been subtle signs over the years suggesting a tendency toward control or heightened emotional reactions. For these viewers, the recent incident felt like confirmation of something they had already suspected, a continuation of a pattern. But not everyone agrees with that interpretation. There are just as many fans who believe this narrative is unfair. They argue that Robyn has often been placed in difficult positions within the family, expected to navigate complex relationships while also dealing with public scrutiny. From this perspective, her emotional responses are not signs of a pattern, but rather reflections of the pressure she's under. Being part of a plural family is already challenging. Add cameras, editing, and millions of viewers analyzing every move,
and the situation becomes even more complicated. These fans believe that what's being labeled as a pattern may actually be a series of moments taken out of context. Moments that, when viewed individually, don't necessarily tell the full story. And that raises an important point. How much of what we see is truly representative of reality? Reality television is designed to tell a story, but that story is shaped by producers, editors, and the need to keep viewers engaged. Certain moments are highlighted, others are minimized or left out entirely. And as a result, the narrative that emerges may not always reflect the complete picture. In Robyn's case, this means that viewers are forming opinions based on a curated version of events, a version that may emphasize drama over nuance. Still, perception carries weight, and once an audience begins to see a pattern, it can be difficult to change that perception. Every new moment is filtered through the same lens. Every interaction is analyzed more closely. And even neutral situations can take on a different meaning. This is exactly what seems to be happening now. The recent controversy has reignited long-standing debates about Robyn's role in the family, about how she interacts with others, and about whether her behavior contributes to the tension that has been evident in recent seasons. At the same time, it's worth considering the broader context. The Brown family has gone through significant changes over the years. Relationships have shifted, trust has been tested, and the structure that once held everything together has evolved. In that environment, emotions are bound to run high, conflicts are inevitable, and moments of tension are not surprising. The question is whether those moments are being interpreted accurately, or whether they are being amplified by existing opinions and expectations. For Robyn, this situation represents more than just a single controversial moment. It's a reflection of how she is perceived by the audience, a perception that has been building over time, and one that is now being reinforced by current events. As fans continue to debate and analyze, one thing becomes clear: the conversation is no longer just about what happened, it's about what it means. Does this moment reveal something deeper about the family dynamic, or is it simply another example of how reality TV can shape and sometimes distort perception? In the next part, we'll shift focus to the reaction from the rest of the Brown family, how they may have viewed the situation, what tensions might exist behind the scenes, and whether this controversy has had a lasting impact on their relationships. Because in a family as interconnected as this one, no moment exists in isolation. As the controversy continued to spread among fans of Sister Wives, attention quickly shifted from the moment itself to something just as important: how the rest of the Brown family may have reacted. Because in a family as large and interconnected as this one, a single tense interaction rarely affects just two people. It creates ripples, and those ripples can reveal underlying tensions that may have been building for years. At the center of this dynamic is, of course, Kody Brown. As the head of the family, his response, or lack of response, often plays a major role in how situations unfold. Over time, viewers have noticed that Kody's approach to conflict can vary depending on who is involved. And that inconsistency has been a topic of discussion among fans for quite some time. In this particular situation, many viewers began questioning whether Kody stepped in at all. Did he attempt to mediate? Did he support one side over the other? Or did he remain distant, allowing the tension to escalate? These questions matter because Kody's role isn't just that of a husband, it's also that of a father figure to many children in the family, and how he navigates conflict can significantly impact how those children feel supported and understood. Some fans believe that his tendency to avoid certain confrontations has contributed to ongoing issues within the family. Others argue that he's often placed in impossible situations, trying to balance multiple relationships at once. But regardless of perspective, his involvement, or absence, adds another layer to the story. Then there are the other wives. Over the years, relationships between the women in the family have evolved in complex ways. At times, they've shown unity and support. At other times, distance and disagreements have been clear. In moments of tension, these relationships become even more important, because support, or the lack of it, can influence how situations are perceived and handled. Some viewers speculate that certain family members may have quietly disagreed with how the situation was handled, even if those opinions weren't openly expressed on camera. Others believe that long-standing divisions within the family may have prevented any unified response. And that lack of unity can make even small conflicts feel larger than they are. One name that often comes up in these discussions is Meri Brown. As someone who has experienced her own challenges within the family, Meri's perspective, whether shared publicly or not, adds depth to the situation. Fans often wonder how she views these kinds of interactions, especially given her history of feeling isolated or misunderstood. Then there's Janelle Brown, who is often seen as more independent and direct. Her approach to conflict has typically been more measured, but that doesn't mean she isn't affected by what happens within the family. And of course, Kody Brown, whose departure marked a major turning point for the family dynamic. Her decision to leave highlighted deeper issues that had been building for years, issues that continue to influence how viewers interpret current events. When fans look at this recent controversy, they don't just see one interaction, they see it in the context of everything that has come before. The shifting relationships, the emotional distance, the unresolved tensions, all of these elements shape how the moment is understood. And then there are the children. While much of the focus is often on the adults, the experiences of the younger family members are just as important, if not more so. Growing up in a plural family that is also in the public eye presents unique challenges, and moments of conflict can have a lasting impact. That's why this situation has resonated so strongly with viewers, because it touches on something deeper than just disagreement. It raises questions about communication, support, and the emotional environment within the family. Are the younger members being heard? Are their feelings being considered? And how do moments like this shape their experiences growing up? These are the questions that many fans are asking. At the same time, it's important to remember that not everything is visible. What happens behind the scenes may tell a very different story. Conversations that aren't filmed, resolutions that take place off camera, support that isn't shown in the final edit. All of these factors can influence the reality of the situation in ways that viewers may never fully see. Still, the perception of tension is enough to drive conversation. And right now, that conversation is more intense than ever. As we move into the next part, we'll explore how fans themselves have reacted, diving into the online discussions, the divided opinions, and the way social media has amplified this controversy. Because in today's world, the audience doesn't just watch the story, they become part of it.
As soon as the moment aired on Sister Wives, it didn't stay contained within the episode for long. Within hours, clips began circulating across social media platforms, and the reaction was immediate and intense. Fans took to comment sections, forums, and discussion threads to share their opinions about Robyn Brown and what they believed they had just witnessed. For many, the response was emotional. Some viewers expressed disappointment, saying the interaction felt uncomfortable to watch. They pointed out specific details, the tone of voice, the pacing of the conversation, and the visible reaction of the teen involved. To them, it wasn't just a disagreement. It felt like something more serious. Others used stronger language, calling the moment inappropriate or unnecessary. These fans believed that the situation could have been handled in a calmer, more supportive way, especially given the age of the person involved. But not all reactions were critical. A significant portion of the audience came to Robyn's defense. They argued that what viewers saw was only a small part of a much larger interaction, that without full context, it's impossible to make a fair judgment. Some fans even suggested that the scene may have been edited in a way that heightened the drama, something reality TV is often known for. This divide created two very distinct sides of the conversation. On one side, viewers who felt the moment revealed a deeper issue. On the other, those who believed the backlash was exaggerated. And as these two perspectives clashed, the discussion only grew louder. Posts analyzing the scene began trending within fan communities. Some users broke down the interaction frame by frame, pointing out body language cues and emotional reactions. Others compared the moment to past episodes, trying to determine whether this behavior was consistent or out of character. What made this situation even more powerful was the emotional investment of the audience. Fans of Sister Wives have followed the Brown family for years. They've watched the children grow up. They've seen relationships evolve. And because of that long-term connection, moments involving younger family members often hit harder. It's no longer just entertainment. It feels personal. That emotional connection is what fuels strong reactions. And in today's digital world, those reactions spread quickly. A single clip can reach thousands or even millions of viewers in a short amount of time. Each new share brings new opinions, new interpretations, and new layers to the conversation. Before long, what started as a single moment becomes a larger narrative. In this case, that narrative centers around questions of fairness, communication, and the role each adult plays within the family. But social media doesn't just amplify criticism, it also shapes it. As more people weigh in, certain viewpoints gain traction. Repeated opinions begin to feel like consensus,
even if not everyone agrees. This can create a kind of echo effect, where similar perspectives are reinforced over and over again. At the same time, opposing voices often push back, leading to debates that can become increasingly intense. And that's exactly what has happened here. The conversation surrounding Robyn has become more than just a reaction to one scene. It has turned into a broader discussion about her role in the family and how she is perceived by viewers. Some fans have revisited older episodes, re-examining past interactions through this new lens. Others have focused on the present, analyzing every recent appearance for clues about underlying dynamics. This level of scrutiny is not uncommon for reality TV figures, especially those who have been on screen for many years. But it does come with challenges, because once a narrative takes hold, it can be difficult to shift. Even if new information emerges, or if future episodes provide additional context, first impressions often leave a lasting impact. For Robyn, this means that the current backlash could influence how viewers interpret her actions moving forward. Every future interaction may be viewed more critically, every decision may be questioned more closely, and that level of attention can change the way a person is perceived, regardless of intent. At the same time, it's important to recognize that social media reactions don't always reflect the full audience. They represent the most vocal voices, not necessarily the majority. There are likely many viewers who have seen the scene and chosen not to engage in the discussion publicly. Their perspectives, while quieter, are still part of the overall picture. But in the world of online discourse, it's often the loudest voices that shape the narrative. And right now, that narrative is still evolving. As we move into the next part, we'll take a closer look at how reality TV editing and production choices can influence moments like this, exploring how scenes are constructed, what might be left out, and how that affects what viewers ultimately see. Because sometimes what appears to be a clear story is actually just one version of many possible perspectives. As the debates surrounding Robyn Brown continued to intensify, a new question began to surface among viewers. How much of what we saw was the full reality? Because when it comes to Sister Wives, like all reality television, what appears on screen is only a carefully constructed version of events. Every episode is shaped by production choices. Scenes are selected, moments are shortened, conversations are edited. And all of these decisions play a role in how a story is told. This doesn't necessarily mean that what viewers see is false, but it does mean that it's incomplete. And in situations like this one, where emotions run high and interpretations vary, that distinction becomes incredibly important. Let's consider how a typical scene is created. A conversation that may have lasted several minutes or even longer gets condensed into a short segment. Only certain parts are shown. Reactions may be cut or rearranged. Pauses and context can disappear entirely. As a result, what viewers experience is not the full interaction, but a highlight reel of the most impactful moments. And those moments are often chosen for one reason: to keep the audience engaged. This is where things can become complicated, because an interaction that felt balanced in real time can appear unsighted when edited. A calm discussion can seem tense. A brief emotional reaction can feel prolonged. And without the surrounding context, it's easy to draw conclusions that may not reflect the full picture. In the case of the recent controversy, some fans have begun to question whether editing played a role in shaping the narrative. Was the moment presented in a way that emphasized conflict? Were there parts of the conversation that weren't shown? Did the teen involved have reactions or responses that didn't make it into the final cut? These are questions that viewers can't definitively answer, but they are worth considering, because they highlight the limits of what we actually know. At the same time, it's important not to dismiss what was shown entirely. Editing can influence perception, but it doesn't create something out of nothing. The interaction did happen, the emotions were real, and the reactions, both from the people involved and from the audience, are valid in their own way. The challenge lies in balancing those two truths, recognizing that what we see matters, while also understanding that it may not be the full story. For longtime viewers of Sister Wives, this isn't a new concept. Over the years, there have been multiple instances where cast members have hinted at moments being edited in ways that didn't fully capture their intentions. Sometimes they've even spoken out about scenes that felt misrepresented. But even when those clarifications are made, the initial impression often lingers, because once a moment is seen, it becomes part of the viewer's understanding of the story, and that understanding can be difficult to change. In this situation, the impact of editing may have amplified certain elements of the interaction. The tone, the pacing, the emotional weight, all of these factors contribute to how the moment is perceived. But there's another layer to consider as well: the expectations of the audience. Viewers don't watch these scenes in isolation. They bring with them years of context, opinions, and assumptions, and those factors influence how they interpret what they see. If someone already believes that a particular cast member tends to behave a certain way, they may be more likely to interpret a scene in line with that belief. On the other hand, viewers who have a more neutral or supportive perspective may see the same moment differently. This is where editing and perception intersect. The way a scene is presented interacts with the expectations of the audience, creating a narrative that feels real, even if it's only one version of events. And in the age of social media, that narrative spreads quickly. Clips are shared without additional context. Short segments are replayed and analyzed. And over time, those fragments can take on a meaning that goes beyond the original scene. For Robyn, this means that the current controversy may be shaped not just by what happened, but by how it was shown and how it was received. It's a reminder that reality TV is not just about documenting life, it's about telling a story. And like any story, it involves choices about what to include, what to emphasize, and what to leave out. As viewers, understanding that process doesn't necessarily change how we feel about a moment, but it does add depth to the conversation. It encourages us to ask questions, to consider different perspectives, and to recognize that there may be more beneath the surface than what we initially see. In the next part, we'll explore how this controversy connects to deeper issues within the Brown family, looking at long-standing tensions, shifting relationships, and the challenges of maintaining unity in a family that has undergone so much change. Because sometimes a single moment can reflect much larger dynamics at play.
As the conversation continues to unfold around Robyn Brown, it becomes increasingly clear that this situation may be about more than just one moment. For many viewers of Sister Wives, the controversy feels like a reflection of deeper, long-standing dynamics within the Brown family. Over the years, the structure of the family has gone through major changes. What once appeared to be a unified plural household has gradually shifted into something far more divided. Relationships that were once cooperative have become distant. Communication has broken down in ways that are sometimes subtle and other times impossible to ignore. At the center of these changes is Kody Brown. His role has always been complicated, but in recent seasons, viewers have noticed a significant shift in how he interacts with each member of the family. The balance that once defined the plural marriage seems to have faded, replaced by a structure that many fans describe as uneven. And that perceived imbalance has created tension. Tension between spouses, tension between households, and in some cases, tension that extends to the children. This is where the current controversy begins to connect to a larger narrative. Because when a family is already experiencing strain, even small interactions can carry more weight. They're not just isolated moments, they're seen as part of a bigger pattern. For some viewers, the situation involving Robyn feels like an extension of these ongoing issues. They believe it highlights a lack of cohesion within the family, a sense that not everyone is operating under the same understanding or expectations, and that difference can lead to moments that feel uncomfortable or unbalanced. One of the most significant shifts in the family dynamic came with the departure of Kody Brown. Her decision to leave wasn't just a personal choice, it was a turning point. It signaled that the structure of the family was no longer sustainable in the way it once had been, and it opened the door for deeper conversations about the challenges each member had been facing. Following that, viewers saw increasing distance between Kody and other wives, including Janelle Brown and Meri Brown. These shifts created an environment where unity became harder to maintain. And in that environment, individual actions often stand out more. Because when a family feels disconnected, there's less of a buffer, less support, less understanding. So when a tense interaction occurs, like the one currently being discussed, it can feel more significant than it might in a more stable setting. It can seem like evidence of deeper issues. Another factor to consider is communication. In large families, especially those with complex structures, clear and consistent communication is essential. But in the Brown family, communication has often been shown as fragmented. Different members express different expectations. Conversations happen in separate spaces, and sometimes messages don't fully reach everyone involved. This lack of clarity can lead to misunderstandings, and misunderstandings can quickly escalate into conflict. For viewers, this raises an important question. Was the recent situation a result of poor communication? Was something misinterpreted or not fully explained? Or was it a reflection of underlying frustrations that have been building over time? These possibilities are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they often overlap. Because in any long-term relationship, especially one as complex as this, past experiences shape present interactions. Unresolved issues don't simply disappear. They linger, they influence behavior, and they can resurface in unexpected ways. That's why some fans feel that the current controversy is not just about what happened in that one moment. It's about everything that led up to it. The history, the changes, the emotional distance that has developed over time. And for Robyn Brown, being part of that history means that her actions are often viewed within a broader context, a context that includes years of perception, criticism, and evolving relationships. At the same time, it's important to remember that every member of the family is navigating their own challenges. Each person has their own perspective, their own experiences, and their own way of responding to difficult situations. That complexity is what makes the story so compelling, but also so difficult to fully understand. Because there is no single perspective that captures the entire truth.
Instead, there are multiple viewpoints, each shaped by different experiences and emotions. As viewers, we see only a portion of that reality. And while that portion can feel complete, it is always part of something larger. As we move into the next part, we'll take a closer look at how this controversy may impact the future, both for Robyn and for the Brown family as a whole, looking at potential outcomes, possible changes, and the direction the story may take from here. Because moments like this don't just affect the present, they can shape what comes next. As the controversy continues to circulate among fans of Sister Wives, one of the biggest questions now is how this moment is affecting the public image of Robyn Brown. Because in reality television, perception is everything, and once a strong narrative begins to form, it can be incredibly difficult to change. For years, Robyn's image has already been a topic of debate among viewers. Some have seen her as emotional and protective, while others have viewed her as overly influential within the family, particularly in her relationship with Kody Brown. Now, with this latest controversy, those existing opinions are being reinforced or challenged in new ways. For viewers who are already critical, this moment feels like confirmation. It strengthens their belief that Robyn's behavior can sometimes come across as intense or controlling, and because of that, they may begin to view future interactions through an even more critical lens. Every new scene becomes part of the same narrative. Every expression, every conversation, every reaction is analyzed more closely. On the other hand, supporters of Robyn see the situation very differently. They argue that she is being judged too harshly, that the expectations placed on her are higher than those placed on other family members, and that moments like this are being taken out of context and amplified beyond what is fair. This divide creates a very polarized audience, and in that kind of environment, perception doesn't just evolve, it hardens. People choose sides, and once they do, it becomes more difficult to shift their perspective. This is one of the biggest challenges of being in the public eye, especially on a long-running show like Sister Wives, because over time, viewers don't just watch the story, they build their own understanding of it. They form connections, they develop opinions, and those opinions become part of how they interpret everything that follows. For Robyn, this means that the current moment may have a lasting impact beyond just one episode. It could shape how she is perceived for the rest of the season, and possibly beyond. And that kind of impact isn't limited to the show itself. It extends to social media, to fan discussions, to the broader public conversation, where narratives can spread quickly and reach audiences far beyond the original viewership. Another important factor is how silence or response plays into perception. If a situation like this is not addressed publicly, some viewers may interpret that silence in their own way. They may see it as avoidance or as confirmation. At the same time, speaking out carries its own risks. Any statement can be analyzed, interpreted, and debated just as intensely as the original moment. So the decision of whether or how to respond becomes incredibly complex. This is something many reality TV figures face, balancing personal privacy with public expectation, trying to maintain authenticity while also managing how they are perceived. And in a situation like this, where emotions are already heightened, that balance becomes even more difficult to achieve. There's also the question of long-term reputation. Moments of controversy can define how someone is remembered, especially if they align with existing narratives. But they can also become turning points, opportunities for growth, chances to shift perception over time through actions, communication, and change. For Robyn, the path forward will likely depend on how future interactions are perceived, whether viewers see consistency or change, whether new moments reinforce the current narrative or challenge it. Because in reality television, stories are always evolving. What feels definitive today may look very different in the context of future episodes. Still, the current situation highlights something important about audience engagement. Viewers are not passive. They are active participants in the story. They analyze, they interpret, they react. And in doing so, they shape the narrative just as much as the show itself. That's why this moment has become so significant. It's not just about what happened. It's about what it represents to the audience, and how that representation influences the way the story is told moving forward. As we move into the next part, we'll explore what this controversy could mean for the future Brown family as a whole, looking at potential outcomes, possible changes, and the direction the story may take from here. Because moments like this don't just affect the present, they can shape what comes next.
As the dust begins to settle around the controversy involving Robyn Brown, attention naturally shifts toward the future, both for her and for the Brown family as a whole on Sister Wives. Because moments like this don't just fade away, they leave an impact on relationships, on perceptions, and on the direction the story takes moving forward. One of the biggest questions fans are asking right now is whether this situation will lead to any visible changes within the family dynamic. Will there be conversations behind the scenes? Will tensions rise or begin to resolve? Or will everything continue as it has, with underlying issues remaining unaddressed? These questions are especially important given the current state of the family. Over the past few seasons, viewers have already seen significant shifts, both emotionally and structurally. The departures of key family members, the growing distance between households, and the increasing focus on individual lives have all changed the way the family operates. And in that context, even a single controversial moment can have ripple effects. For example, trust is a major factor. If certain members of the family feel misunderstood, unsupported, or uncomfortable, it can affect how they interact moving forward. Conversations may become more guarded, emotions may be expressed differently, and relationships that are already strained may face additional pressure. At the same time, there's also the possibility of growth. Controversy can sometimes act as a catalyst, a moment that forces reflection, that encourages communication, that leads to a deeper understanding of one another. In families, especially large and complex ones, conflict is often unavoidable, but how that conflict is handled can make all the difference. Will it create more division, or will it open the door to change? For Kody Brown, this situation may also bring renewed attention to his role within the family. As the central figure connecting multiple relationships, his approach to conflict resolution is crucial. Fans have often debated whether he takes an active role in addressing issues, or whether his responses sometimes contribute to the tension. Moving forward, viewers may be watching more closely to see how he navigates situations like this, whether he steps in more directly, whether he encourages open dialogue, or whether patterns from the past continue. Another important aspect is how the younger members of the family are affected. Growing up in a highly visible, unconventional family structure already comes with unique challenges. Add public scrutiny and online discussion, and those challenges become even more complex. Moments like this can shape how younger individuals feel within the family, how supported they feel, how comfortable they are expressing themselves, and those experiences can have long-term effects. That's why many fans are paying close attention not just to what happened, but to what happens next, because the aftermath often reveals more than the moment itself. There's also the broader impact on the show. Reality TV thrives on drama and emotional storytelling, but there's a balance between engaging content and situations that feel uncomfortable or controversial. Producers may take note of audience reactions, they may adjust how certain stories are presented, or they may lean into the discussion knowing that it drives engagement. Either way, the direction of future episodes could be influenced by how strongly viewers respond to this situation. For Robyn Brown, the path forward is likely to be closely watched. Every interaction, every conversation, every decision, all of it may be viewed through the lens of this controversy, and that can create pressure, because when expectations are high and opinions are divided, even small moments can take on greater significance. But it also creates an opportunity to shift perception, to show growth, to address concerns, whether directly or through actions over time. Because while first impressions are powerful, they are not always permanent. Narratives can change, perceptions can evolve, and stories can take unexpected turns. For the Brown family as a whole, this moment may serve as a reflection point, a chance to evaluate where things stand, what needs to change, and how they want to move forward, both as individuals and as a family. As viewers, we can only observe and interpret. But one thing is certain, this situation has added a new layer to an already complex story. And as the next chapter unfolds on Sister Wives, fans will be watching closely to see what happens next. Because in a story that has been years in the making, every moment has the potential to shape the future. As the controversy surrounding Robyn Brown continues to reverberate, it's clear that this situation is about far more than a single moment. What has unfolded on Sister Wives reflects larger dynamics within the Brown family, including long-standing tensions, communication challenges, and the pressures of navigating life under constant public scrutiny. For viewers, this moment serves as both a dramatic episode and a lens through which to examine the family as a whole. Over the years, the Browns have faced numerous changes, from departures and relationship shifts to the evolving roles of each wife and the patriarch Kody Brown. These changes have shaped the way family members interact, how conflicts emerge, and how they are ultimately resolved. For Robyn Brown, the fallout from this controversy may be long-lasting. While some fans criticize her actions, others defend her, highlighting the complexity of family dynamics and the pressures of life in a plural household. How she navigates this public scrutiny will play a major role in shaping both her image and the audience's perception moving forward. The reactions of the other family members are equally important. Kody Brown, as well as the other wives, Meri Brown, Janelle Brown, and remaining family members, may respond in ways that influence future interactions and the overall family dynamic. How trust is rebuilt, how communication is handled, and how emotional support is offered will all be critical moving forward. This controversy also underscores the power of perception and reality television. Editing, production choices, and selective storytelling can amplify moments, sometimes creating tension that feels greater than it may have been in real life. At the same time, the audience's interpretation matters. Fans have developed long-term expectations and connections to the family that color how every interaction is viewed. Looking ahead, the situation may serve as a turning point. It could lead to renewed discussions within the family, changes in relationships, or a shift in how family members communicate on and off camera. For Robyn, it could be an opportunity to clarify her intentions, demonstrate growth, and navigate public perception more effectively. For the family as a whole, it may highlight areas where cohesion and understanding need to be strengthened.
Ultimately, moments like this are a reminder that life in a high-profile, plural family is complex, and that every interaction is influenced by history, relationships, and external pressures. While viewers see only a fraction of reality, those moments offer insight into the challenges, emotional intensity, and depth of the Brown family dynamic. As fans continue to watch and engage, one thing is certain: the story of Robyn Brown, Kody, and the entire Brown family is far from over. Future episodes will continue to reveal how conflicts are addressed, how relationships evolve, and how the family navigates life both on-screen and off-screen. In the end, this controversy reminds us that reality TV is more than entertainment. It's a window into real human experiences, emotions, and relationships. And as the Browns move forward, viewers will be watching every step, every decision, and every interaction, eager to see how this latest chapter unfolds.